Anthology of Discourses, a refreshing translation of the Sutta Nipāta, translated by Bhikkhu Sujato and read by Angus Cargill. The Horned Rhino. When you've laid down arms toward all creatures, not harming even a single one, don't wish for a child, let alone a companion. Live alone like a horned rhino. Those with close relationships have affection, following which this pain arises. Seeing this danger born of affection, live alone like a horned rhino. When feelings for friends and loved ones are tied up in selfish love, you miss out on the goal. Seeing this peril in intimacy, live alone like a horned rhino. As a spreading bamboo gets entangled, so does concern for partners and children. Like a bamboo shoot unobstructed, live alone like a horned rhino. As a wild deer loose in the forest grazes wherever it wants, a smart person looking for freedom would live alone like a horned rhino. When among friends, whether staying in place or going on a journey, you're always on call. Looking for the uncoveted freedom, live alone like a horned rhino. Among friends you have fun and games, and for children you are full of love. Though loath to depart from those you hold dear, live alone like a horned rhino. At ease in any quarter, unresisting, content with whatever comes your way, prevailing over adversaries, dauntless, live alone like a horned rhino. Even some renunciates are hard to please, as are some layfolk dwelling at home. Don't worry about others' children. Live alone like a horned rhino. Having shed the marks of the home life like the fallen leaves of the shady orchid tree, having cut the bonds of the home life, a hero would live alone like a horned rhino. If you find an alert companion, an attentive friend to live happily together, then, overcoming all adversities, wander with them, joyful and mindful. If you find no alert companion, an attentive friend to live happily together, then, like a king who flees his conquered realm, wander alone like a tusker in the wilds. Clearly, we praise the blessing of a friend. It's good to be with friends your equal or better. But failing to find them, eating blamelessly, live alone like a horned rhino. Though made of shining gold, well finished by a smith, when two bracelets share the same arm, they clash up against each other. Seeing this, live alone like a horned rhino. Thinking, so too, if I had a partner, there'd be flattery or curses. Seeing this peril in the future, live alone like a horned rhino. Sensual pleasures are diverse, sweet, delightful. Appearing in disguise, they disturb the mind. Seeing danger in sensual stimulations, live alone like a horned rhino. This is a calamity, a boil, a disaster, an illness, a dart, and a danger for me. Seeing this peril in sensuality, live alone like a horned rhino. Heat and cold, hunger and thirst, wind and sun, flies and snakes. Having put up with all these things, live alone like a horned rhino. As a full-grown elephant, lotus-fond, magnificent, forsaking the herd, stays as it pleases in the forest, live alone like a horned rhino. It's impossible for one who delights in company to experience even temporary freedom. Heeding the speech of the kinsman of the sun, live alone like a horned rhino. Thinking, I have left twisted views behind, reached the sure way and gained the path. I've given rise to knowledge and need no one to guide me. Live alone like a horned rhino. No greed, no guile, no thirst, no slur, dross and delusion is melted off, free of hoping for anything in the world. Live alone like a horned rhino. Avoid a wicked companion, blind to the good, habitually immoral. Don't befriend the heedless and the hankering, but live alone like a horned rhino. Spend time with the learned who have memorized the teachings, an eloquent and uplifting friend. When you understand the meanings and have dispelled doubt, live alone like a horned rhino. When you realize that worldly fun and games and pleasure are unsatisfying, disregarding them as one adorned, a speaker of truth, live alone like a horned rhino. Children, partner, father, mother, wealth and grain and relatives, having given up sensual pleasures to this extent, live alone like a horned rhino. This is a snare. Here there's hardly any happiness. Little gratification, and it's full of drawbacks. It's a hook. Knowing this, a thoughtful person would live alone like a horned rhino. Having burst apart the fetters like a fish that tears the net and swims free, or a fire not returning to ground it has burned, live alone like a horned rhino. Eyes downcast, not footloose, senses guarded, mind protected, not festering or burning with desire, live alone like a horned rhino. Having shed the marks of the home life, like the fallen leaves of the shady orchid tree, and gone forth in the ochre robe, live alone like a horned rhino. Not wanton or rousing greed for tastes, providing for no other, wandering indiscriminately for alms. Not attached to this family or that, live alone like a horned rhino. When you've given up 5 mental obstacles and expelled all corruptions, and cut off affection and hate, being independent, live alone like a horned rhino. When you've put pleasure and pain behind you, and former happiness and sadness, and gained equanimity serene and pure, live alone like a horned rhino. With energy roused to reach the ultimate goal, not sluggish in mind or lazy, vigorous, strong, and powerful, live alone like a horned rhino. Not neglecting retreat and absorption, always living in line with the teachings, comprehending the danger in rebirths, live alone like a horned rhino. One whose aim is the ending of craving, diligent, clever, learned, mindful, resolute, who has appraised the teaching and is bound for awakening, should live alone like a horned rhino. Like a lyre not startled by sounds, like wind not caught in a net, like water not sticking to a lotus, live alone like a horned rhino. Like the fierce-fanged lion, king of beasts, who wanders as conqueror and victor, you should frequent remote lodgings and live alone like a horned rhino. In time, cultivate freedom through love, compassion, rejoicing, and equanimity. Not upset by anything in the world, live alone like a horned rhino. Having given up greed, hate, and delusion, having burst apart the fetters, unafraid at the end of life, live alone like a horned rhino. They befriend you and serve you for their own sake. These days it's hard to find friends lacking ulterior motive. Impure folk cleverly profit themselves. Live alone like a horned rhino.